Kevin Holland versus Darren Stewart takes place this weekend on the main card of UFC Fight Night Vegas 11, Covington versus Woodley, and I can't wait for this matchup. This is a great main card to be on as well, to be honest with you. I'm so glad that Kevin Holland versus Darren Stewart is opening up this weekend's main card, because look at that card. To be on that main card, you're going to get a ton of eyes on you, and to be opening up that main card, I mean, it just goes to credit how fun and entertaining the fighting style of Kevin Holland is, and the fighting style of Darren Stewart as well. Both of these guys come out there to fight, always seem to put on great performances when put up against strikers. Darren Stewart runs into some guys who are just looking to clinch him against the cage, but still manages to find a way out of it. He's got great takedown defense. He showed that against some good wrestlers in the division, but still, on the feet is where this fight is most likely going to be taking place. That's what both guys like to do. Kevin Holland is a dangerous guy in that division, and I think we need to watch out for him, because look at this main card. Covington versus Woodley, Cerrone versus Price, Chimaev versus Meerschaert, Walker versus Spann, Dern versus Marcos. What an amazing card to be on the main card of. You're going to have a ton of eyes on, and whoever wins this fight this weekend is going to be up there with the likes of the Marvin Vettoris in terms of a hyped up prospect in the middleweight division. I'm looking forward to it. Kevin Holland recently has been looking really good. 2 really dominant wins, which he's kind of not really found in his career before until this year, where he beat Anthony Hernandez by first round finish, made it look really easy as well, then went out there against a dangerous contender at the time, 10-2 Joaquin Buckley. Dangerous, same build as Darren Stewart, by the way, which is what we're going to get to in a minute, but still beat Joaquin Buckley dominantly, basically played with him for 3 rounds, spoke the whole time. Could have probably finished it a little bit earlier if he didn't want to walk off, because he knocked him down really badly in the first round, I believe, as well. But still, made it look easy against a guy like Joaquin Buckley, which cannot go unnoticed. Kevin Holland's looked really good, and I've been on the bandwagon of Kevin Holland for a very long time. As soon as I saw him on the Contender Series, I thought, you know what, they didn't sign him. We'll probably see him in a few years, because he looks pretty good of a fighter, and he won his fight as well, which needs to be noted as well. He didn't get cancelled and not picked up by the Contender Series because he lost. He won his fight, but Dana White just didn't like the fact that Kevin Holland spoke the whole time and maybe didn't win his fight dominantly enough because of it. But still, he came back against Thiago Santos on short notice. Dana White said, cool big mouth, let's see what he can do on short notice. And I tell you this, Thiago Maheta Santos, that guy who went up to light heavyweight not too long afterwards and went to a split decision with John Jones on one leg, that guy, Kevin Holland made it look competitive against him on a couple days' notice, and that's a fact. He almost finished Santos multiple times, and in an alternate universe, that armbar is in, that Kimura is in. You know, that Kevin Holland had him in real danger throughout the fight, and even being able to survive Thiago Santos for 3 rounds when you don't have the best gas tank because of a couple of days of camp, just shows how tough you are as well, and how you can get through things, because Kevin Holland was visibly hurt in that fight. You remember him squinting at one point? I think it wasn't even eye poke, it was just squinting to pain because he was taking so many big shots, but still he managed to find a way to survive. That kind of toughness I do respect. Then he went out there against John Phillips after that one, bounced back with a big win. John Phillips at this time was 21-7, so it looked a little bit better, but still John Phillips is not that good of an opponent, so I don't know really how much credit to put behind that win for Kevin Holland when coming into a fight against Darren Stewart. I think Stewart's a bit of a different level to John Phillips, but still, John Phillips, he made him look easy. That's what you have to do to John Phillips. If you get given a can who loses a lot of his fights in the UFC and doesn't really win too much, go out there and make him look like a can. That's why you've got to give Chimaev credit as well for his win against Phillips, because although it's Phillips, he made him look like Phillips, which is a really good thing. And so did Kevin Holland. Dominated him for a bit longer than Chimaev did, in all fairness, but still dominated him start to finish and really showed his full game in that fight by just teeing off on John Phillips with front kicks the entire time. It was an amazing performance. I think those front kicks are going to come in handy against a shorter opponent in Darren Stewart, especially because Darren Stewart's a little bit... He doesn't move too well. Like, he does do a lot of footwork, don't get me wrong, but when he does throw, he sets in his stance, starts swinging, he's a little bit stiff at the hips, and that's something else I want to talk about here as well. Joaquin Buckley is basically the exact same style of fight as Darren Stewart. Now, Darren Stewart is a bit better than Joaquin Buckley. I'm willing to accept that. He's like Buckley 1.5, I would say, but still, it's a similar style. So Kevin Holland has just fought an opponent and had a camp for an opponent, And then now he's got another camp for the similar opponent that's probably going to bring a lot of the same techniques and moves. He's had basically 2 camps for Darren Stewart and a hard sparring session against Buckley. I think that Kevin Holland's going to win. I'm on the Trailblazer hype train right now. I think he's a very good. But one thing I do want to mention, against Gerald Meerschaert, who's a dangerous guy in that division, Holland beat him, but it was a close decision. Could have gone either way, in my opinion. You look at the Chirico win. I thought it was a little bit clearer. He won the fight against the Chirico, but still, razor close fight. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a split decision as well. I disagree with it. I thought Holland won, but still, Gerald Meerschaert win. Could have gone either way. In my opinion, that's a real split decision, if you ask me. It makes quite a bit of sense. But still, Kevin Holland, a dangerous opponent, really seems to be piecing things together a little bit more recently. Sitting down on his punches a little bit more. Not really showboating as much. Really holding his ground a bit more and staying in the pocket and wanting to make guys pay for missing. Because Kevin Holland used to do a lot of taunting and a lot of footwork and a lot of dodging and making people miss. But then he would just sit there and watch them and talk to them and say something to them. But now it seems like he's making advantages out of those missed shots from his opponents, and he's finding the target time and time again. I think he's going to go out there and get it. I think he's going to submit Darren Stewart. I think he's going to hurt him. He's going to rock him. Stewart's going to go for a bad takedown, and I could see Kevin Holland whipping up a guillotine choke finish in the first or second round. I'll say end of the first, midway through the second, that kind of area. I think Kevin Holland's going to get it done. I'm looking forward to it, and Darren Stewart is a great opponent to take on as well, with a big win against Maki Pitolo in his last fight. And Pitolo's a guy who went out there and made it look close against a guy in Impa Kasanganay not too long ago. It was a competitive fight, and Impa Kasanganay is an undefeated contender, so Darren Stewart going out there and beating him really easily does look really good. But I will say this, in that fight, I didn't see a guy that beats Kevin Holland. Even though he went out there and beat Maki Pitolo with relative ease in that first round with a guillotine choke, I didn't see like amazingness. I saw a guy a little bit stiff, swinging a little bit recklessly here and there. I think when you come up against range like Kevin Holland, it's probably going to be a bit of a problem. That being said, I know that Darren Stewart does oftentimes train with Michael Venom Page. That's something that does need to be mentioned, because Kevin Holland is very, very, very similar to Michael Venom Page, even personality-wise as well, in terms of in-cage personality, talking to you, mocking you, doing a lot of taunts, doing a lot of feints. Good training partner to have for a guy like Kevin Holland, but I just feel as though Kevin Holland's going to be a little bit too much. I imagine MVP, even training with Darren Stewart for the fight, is still going to be whooping up Darren Stewart in the training, in my opinion. I think MVP beats Darren Stewart, but still, Kevin Holland, a little bit better, a little bit more attuned to the middleweight division as well, doesn't cut a lot of weight, so he can take a very good shot. I just don't see Darren Stewart finishing him, and with Darren Stewart swinging so hard for the finish and having to reach upwards towards Kevin Holland, I think he's going to overreach. Holland's going to pull backwards, blast a right hand down the pipe, rock Darren Stewart. Stewart's going to be all over the place, shoot for a takedown, probably out of being rocked, and then get guillotined or something like that. I don't see Kevin Holland finishing him by strikes. I don't see a big KO finish, because Darren Stewart has got a great chin, which he says he does as well, and I believe him, because I've seen him take big shots, and it doesn't seem to faze him. So I don't like it, Kevin Holland by KO. I do like a submission after hurting Darren Stewart on the feet, or even potentially, maybe, I think the front kick's going to be a good move. Darren Stewart's going to be looking to close the distance massively. We saw the front kick of Kevin Holland against Joaquin Buckley. We saw it against John Phillips. 2 guys who hunch over, come forwards, and swing big hooks, which is what Darren Stewart is going to be trying to do. When you hunch over, you're just opening up that body, ready for front kicks. You're moving slowly forward into someone. I just think it's going to be momentum on momentum. Holland's going to front kick him away, throw a bunch of jabs, make Darren Stewart miss, and then eventually counter off of one of those misses with a straight right hand, getting him out of there. Great matchup though, really good. Darren Stewart's beat some good guys. Bevon Lewis, which is actually a decent win. Bevon Lewis was beating Uriah Hall before getting finished in that third round, and like, Bevon Lewis looks pretty good in some of his fights. Still a guy who's a decent guy in that division. I know he's lost some fights, but still, Darren Stewart beat him. Darren Stewart beat Deron Wynn. Darren Stewart beat Charles Bird, Eric Spike. I mean, these names are not so good, maybe, compared to the names on Kevin Holland's resume, but still, they're great names, and I'm looking forward to seeing Darren Stewart go out there representing the UK. I'm not going to blindly pick him and just show that bias. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not do the Dan Hardy routine. I'm just going to go with Kevin Holland. The reach is too much. You've got, what, a 7-inch reach advantage over someone. He's way taller as well. I think Kevin Holland, it says he's 6'2" on Google, but Google says Covington's 5'9" when he's 6 foot. So I think Kevin Holland is probably about 6'4". He's going to be a massive rangy guy in there, and I think he's going to be too much of a problem. And even at welterweight, Kevin Holland has good wins. Jeff Neal, TKO in the third round. The only guy to finish Jeff Neal in his career. pretty good win to have. Really good win. I just think that Kevin Holland's been in there with much better competition, has looked much better against much better competition as well, has way more experience in terms of high level competition. I think he's going to go out there and get Darren Stewart done. And if he does win this one, he is the next guy up at middleweight other than Marvin Vettori. And maybe they end up making Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. But still, Kevin Holland, I don't know what he's going to do, because this is a big thing. Let's talk about Kevin Holland for a second, because what's he going to do? Because I keep hearing he wants to go down to welterweight, but they keep offering him fights at middleweight, and he keeps taking them because they're on short notice. And I guess he needs time to make the weight at welterweight because he's a big, tall guy. It'd be like James Vick making lightweight, I'd imagine. He's a massive, tall guy, so I think he'd be so rangy. He'd be like Adesanya at welterweight. He's basically Adesanya's size now. So it'd be a tough cut. So maybe he just needs a bit of time, but they keep offering him close fights. So he's not going to make the cut and he's just going to fight at middleweight instead, which is fair enough. But if he wins this one, I think Brendan Allen, who's taking on Ian Heinisch, has earned that shot up now. But there's another few fighters that maybe Kevin Holland could take on in that division. There's Punahele Soriano, who's somehow really highly ranked, even though he's 1-0. There's Zach Cummings, which could be a little fight that's very winnable for Kevin Holland in the meantime. I think he's going to need one more after this one. But if he goes down to welterweight, and here's where things get interesting. Right now at middleweight, there's a bunch of guys that have already earned their jump up. If Allen beats Heinisch, he's going to be looking for big names. If Marvin Vettori's going to be looking for big names right now. He's earned a big name right now. You've got Jotko fighting Makhmud Muradov. The winner of that is going to want a really big name. It's kind of a bit of a logjam at middleweight, so unless Kevin Holland is looking to take on a middleweight coming off a loss like Shabazian, which I know the UFC won't do, maybe they give Brad Tavares to Kevin Holland. That would be a decent matchup maybe, but I don't see that one happening. Why would Brad Tavares take that fight? That would make no sense for him, but still, Brad Tavares seems to take a lot of fights that don't make sense for him in his career and loses the vast majority of them. But still, Antonio Carlos Jr., but then again, Antonio Carlos Jr., older guy, only a few fights left. Why take on streaking contender Kevin Holland? I think if Holland wins this one, maybe he should dip his toes in at welterweight because he's earned a respectable ranking in the middleweight division. What's he right now? 23. If he wins this next fight, he'll probably move up just behind Brendan Allen to probably the 19 area. Maybe they could do him versus Andrew Sanchez, who just had a big win against Wellington Turman by KO. Vicious KO win. Maybe they could do that fight next. I would tune into that one. That's a great matchup. But still, if he moved down to welterweight, there's way more fun. There's Mike Perry's, there's Mikel Pereira's, there's like other big names floating around that are still clinging on for dear life. Like Robbie Lawler, I assume, is probably going to be fighting again because that's just what Robbie Lawler seems to do. But you look at some of these other names, Jeff Neal, who you have a win over. So if Kevin Holland gets a good win enough to get him ranked at welterweight, he's going to naturally move above Jeff Neal just for having a win over him. Like, it's good clout to have a big win over someone who's ranked right now in the welterweight division. And I think if he wins this one, he's going to be looking for maybe even Khamzat Chimaev instead of Chimaev versus Maia. Maybe Chimaev versus Holland would be quite fun. I'd be very interested with that fight. But, you know, they want to give Chimaev Maia because Maia's old and doesn't have it anymore. But still, that'd be a great matchup. Kevin Holland, Mikel Pereira, as I just said. Kevin Holland versus the winner of Muslim Salikov versus Claudio Silva. I would like to watch that one. Kevin Holland versus maybe even Bilal Muhammad. I would like to watch that one. Kevin Holland versus Jesse Ronson, the legend himself, the greatest welterweight of all time, bar GSP, but still an offspawn of GSP because he is around the Canada area. But still, there's a lot of fun matchups for Kevin Holland. I just think maybe after this one, dip your toes in at welterweight. Let's see you at welterweight because I've wanted to see you there for a long time. And if you do get this win, you're going to be in a good position to have some clout and call-out power on the main card of a huge fight night this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I just think that Darren Stewart's a little bit too stiff. Doesn't throw enough moves. I think you have to really mix it up with Kevin Holland. Maybe throw in some takedowns as well. That seems to be the route to success. You're going to be standing there on the feet and trying to bounce around with Kevin Holland. That's just not a good matchup, and he's just fought someone exactly like you, maybe a little bit worse, but he won that one with relative ease, so I think he's probably going to beat you as well, Darren Stewart. But no offense, I'm a traitor to the country, I understand that, very much so indeed, but I think that Darren Stewart will be needing a dentist after this performance this weekend. Kevin Holland, by a vicious punch, rocks Darren Stewart and finishes it with a guillotine choke after Stewart shoots a panic takedown. Like and subscribe. What a great card. This card is going to be amazing. I hope it sticks together. I hope no fights fall out, and I hope we get all of these, because this is one of the best fight nights of the year so far. Forget UFC Fight Island 3 or any of the Fight Island fight nights. This one fucking takes the biscuit by far. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Goodbye. Holland by finish in the second by sub. See you later.